You hear a knock at the door in the middle of the night. Outside, there is a stranger begging to be let in. They might be a real survivor, or they might be the thing that kills everyone in your house while you sleep. That is the core horror of No, I'm Not a Human. The game is not asking whether you are brave enough to face a monster. It is asking whether you are willing to open the door for something that looks human. In this video, we are going through the most important visitors in the game. How they appear, how they talk, what signs give them away, and what they reveal about this broken world. The world of No, I'm Not a Human has collapsed after a solar catastrophe. During the day, the outside temperature becomes deadly. The streets are burned black, survivors are forced to hide indoors, and nighttime becomes the only moment when people can still move around. But nighttime is also when the visitors appear. Visitors are creatures disguised as humans. They knock on your door, ask for shelter, tell stories, act scared, grateful, or helpless. If you let the right person in, you increase your chance of survival. If you let the wrong visitor in, they can kill your guests, ruin an ending, or kill you directly. You identify visitors through physical signs like unnaturally white teeth, bleeding gums, dirty fingernails, red eyes, strange pupils, fungus under the armpits, distorted photos, or the wrong number of fingers. The problem is that real humans can also look suspicious, so every check has to be compared with dialogue and context. The most important thing to understand is that not everyone stays the same between runs. Some characters are always human, some are always visitors, but many characters can change roles. In one playthrough, they might be human. In another, they might be a visitor, so you cannot simply memorize faces. You have to check again every time. Now let's go through the visitor list. First, let's talk about the fixed visitors. I will go from the more straightforward ones to the strangest and most important ones, so the list slowly builds toward the characters that reveal the most about this world. The simplest fixed visitor to understand is Old Lady or Babushka. She is dangerous because she uses a harmless appearance to mislead the player. Her first look is that of an elderly woman who does not seem threatening. That alone can make players skip over details, especially in a game where many real humans already look suspicious. Old Lady's signs are usually physical. An abnormal number of fingers, strange teeth, or details that do not match a normal human body. She does not need complicated dialogue. The trap is that the player sees an old woman and instinctively lowers their guard. Old Lady is a clear example of how the game uses player assumptions to create horror. Not everyone weak is safe. And that is one of the core rules of No, I'm Not a Human. Never trust the first look, because appearance is only the first layer of disguise. Next is Big Mama, a visitor who barely tries to hide what she is. Her appearance is that of an older, heavy-set woman wearing a yellow shirt and a blue skirt. At first, she might look like a former neighbor or another survivor looking for shelter. But in dialogue, Big Mama feels more dominant than desperate. She knows she is no longer fully human, and if you refuse her, she can threaten the player. If you let her in, you may hear her laughing at night, turning the house from a safe shelter into something much more uncomfortable. The most interesting detail is that Big Mama feels connected to other visitors. She does not feel like a lost creature. She feels like someone who knows what is happening outside. If other visitors are still pretending to be human, Big Mama feels like someone who has dropped part of the act and kept only the threat. Coat Guy, also known as Cold Man, he stands out immediately because of his appearance. In a world where daytime heat can kill, he wears winter clothing. A thick coat, a scarf, and he constantly seems cold. The strange part is that his body does not react correctly to the world around him. His coldness does not feel like normal fever or exhaustion. It feels like this body belongs to a different environment. What makes Coat Guy dangerous is his attitude. He is polite, grateful, and accepts your inspections. He does not resist, and he does not threaten you immediately, which makes it easy to assume he is harmless, but his physical signs are deeply abnormal. Pale or bluish skin, dark eyes, and a body that responds incorrectly to the environment. If you keep talking to him over multiple days, he can eventually reveal part of his secret. Coat Guy shows that some visitors use politeness to hide what they are. Not every visitor needs to scare you. Some only need to be civil enough for you to lower your guard. Then we have Cashier Girl, sometimes referred to as the Hunched Woman. She is often one of the first visitors to punish players for being too trusting. Her first impression is that of a young woman with short red hair, a blue shirt, brown pants, bare feet, and a body that looks slightly uneven or deformed, especially around the shoulder. She does not appear like an aggressive monster. She looks like someone vulnerable who needs help. When she talks, she often comes across as pitiful. Her story is built around being judged, being looked at with disgust, and wanting to be treated like a normal person. That dialogue is what makes her dangerous. She does not attack your caution with violence. She attacks it with guilt. If you let her in, she can kill your guests one by one. One important detail is that after she is accepted into the house, the player can sometimes hear her muttering near the storage room. That turns Cashier Girl into a quiet threat. You do not see her act directly, but each passing night can become the consequence of opening the door in the first place. What makes Cashier Girl uncomfortable is that she still carries a very human layer of tragedy. She is not terrifying from the first second. She feels like a victim who may have become a predator. From there, the list becomes stranger with Immortal Man. He is not memorable because of a direct attack, but because of what he says about himself. He believes he is immortal, or trapped in a cycle of death and rebirth. The way he talks about death does not sound like panic. It sounds like someone who has become used to it. His physical signs can involve fingernails, eyes, or other abnormal body reactions. But the most important part is his dialogue. Immortal Man makes the player ask whether visitors only appeared after the solar disaster, or whether they existed before in some other form. In the bigger picture, he creates the feeling that this catastrophe may not be just a natural disaster. There may be something deeper connected to cycles, reincarnation, or beings that do not follow normal rules. Immortal Man does not directly explain the origin of visitors, but he makes the world feel larger and harder to understand. Near the top of the list is Cat Lady, one of the most important visitors in the whole story. She is directly tied to the basement and several hidden paths, so she is not just a character you identify and remove. She appears with a cat and is often foreshadowed by the prophetic man. Her appearance and dialogue both feel unclear and unsettling. She talks about ballet, about being sent, and often refers to a mysterious group as they. The way she speaks makes it feel like Cat Lady is not acting entirely on her own. Cat Lady is always a visitor, but if you want to open the way to the basement, you have to let her in. This makes her different from most other visitors. She is both a threat and a key to hidden content. The game is not only asking whether you can recognize her as a visitor, it is asking whether you are willing to accept the risk to learn more about the world. One very strange detail is that her body can bend and dodge bullets in certain interactions. This makes Cat Lady feel less like a person limited by a human body, and more like a creature performing the shape of a human. The cat matters too. It is connected to opening the basement, leading the player toward endings like Shroom or Doom, and pushing the story into a more supernatural direction. From the moment Cat Lady enters the house, the game begins to move beyond the question of who is human and who is a monster, and toward a bigger question. Who or what is controlling these visitors? Finally, we reach the intruder, also known as the Pale Man. He is the most unusual visitor because he does not come to your door asking for shelter. He comes to check whether you are alone. His appearance is easy to recognize. Deathly pale skin, an almost unnatural body, and a calmness that feels deeply wrong. He does not need to act pitiful, and he does not need to convince you to open the door. His presence alone feels like a warning that your house is not truly safe. In dialogue, the key moment is his question about whether you are alone. If you lie, or if you really have nobody left inside, he kills you. Because of that, the intruder works as a punishment for playing too extremely. If you reject everyone, you cannot survive either. The strange part is what he seems to know. Visitors are not just wandering randomly outside. The intruder seems to know the state of your house, when you are isolated and when to strike. In other words, he is not just a monster at the door. He is proof that something is watching. Besides the fixed visitors, the game also has a group of characters who can change between runs. They can be human or visitor depending on the playthrough. So with this group, you should never judge only by name or first impression. For example, pregnant woman always has the condition where her belly grows over time, but that detail alone is not enough to prove she is a visitor. If she is human, it can become a tragic storyline tied to Child of Doom. If she is a visitor, it shifts much more clearly into body horror, or take Amogus Guy. When he is human, he may just be a strange, slightly meme-like character. When he is a visitor, signs like his eyes, fingernails, or body details will begin to betray him. The rest of this group works under the same rule. An injured person can have scratched hands, a sleepless person can have red eyes, and someone living on the street can have dirty nails. Only when multiple signs line up should the player make a final decision. And those are the most important visitors in No, I'm Not a Human. Which character do you think is the most memorable? And have you ever let the wrong person into your house? Comment down below. And if you want a separate video about Cat Lady, the basement, or the true origin of the visitors, leave a suggestion. And that's all about the visitors in No, I'm Not a Human. Peace.